The roar of the crowd still echoed in his ears as Moussa Traoré sat in his lavish California home, staring at the trophy gleaming under the soft lights. Just hours ago, he had scored the winning goal that secured his team's championship. The world was celebrating him, the headlines, the fans, the flashing cameras, but none of it could silence the voice that had haunted him for years. He leaned back, his fingers tracing the edges of a worn envelope he'd kept hidden for over 2 decades. Inside were his adoption papers, brittle from time, ink faded, but legible enough to reveal a name that had never left his mind. Aisha Diallo, his mother. A ghost from a life before America, before fame, before everything. A knot tightened in his chest. Despite the success, despite the comfort, there was always something missing. No victory, no paycheck, no applause could fill the void of not knowing where he came from, not knowing why he had been left behind. If you're moved by stories of resilience and family, subscribe to our channel for more incredible journeys like this. Moussa rose, walking toward the floor-to-ceiling windows that framed the Los Angeles skyline. Beneath the glitter of the city, he felt smaller than ever. His mind drifted back to Mali, flashes of red dirt roads, the distant sound of drums, the warmth of his mother's hands brushing his hair, and then the screams, the chaos, the day everything was ripped away. The Bennetts had saved him. Michael and Laura, his adoptive parents, were angels in his life. They gave him love, education, and opportunity. But even with their unwavering support, they knew there were questions they couldn't answer. And Moussa never asked, or perhaps never dared to, until now. A notification blinked on his phone, snapping him out of his thoughts. An unfamiliar name. Omar Sissoko. His pulse quickened. That name. It couldn't be. Omar was his childhood friend, or more accurately, had been. They played together in the dusty streets, shared mangoes and whispered secrets only children could carry. Moussa opened the message, his hands trembling slightly. Moussa, is it really you? I've been searching for years. I never thought I'd find you like this. I have news about your mother. She's alive. His breath caught. For a moment, the world stood still. The words blurred as his vision fogged with disbelief. Alive? After all these years? After believing the worst? A flood of emotions surged. Relief, fear, skepticism. Was this real? Or some cruel scam targeting a public figure? He reread the message again and again. It felt too personal, too precise to be a lie. Only someone from his past could know these things. He paced the room, gripping his phone as if it held the answers to his entire existence. Should he reply? Should he ignore it? Was he ready to unearth memories he'd spent years burying? Moussa sat back down, his hands covering his face. The questions swirled faster than he could catch them. What if it was true? What if Aisha had never abandoned him? What if the story he'd believed his whole life was incomplete or wrong? His fingers hovered over the keyboard. For a man who could face thousands in a stadium without flinching, this single message felt more terrifying than any penalty kick. I need to know, he whispered to himself. With a deep breath, he began typing a reply. Moussa's fingers trembled as he hit send. The message was brief, but carried the weight of a lifetime. Is it really you? Tell me everything. The response came faster than he expected. Omar confirmed what Moussa barely dared to believe, that his mother, Aisha Diallo, had survived. She had fled Mali years ago, escaping political violence that had engulfed their village. Her journey had been long, painful, and uncertain. Now, according to Omar, she was somewhere near the US-Mexico border, living as a refugee. Moussa's mind raced. How had she ended up there? Why hadn't she found him? Why hadn't anyone told him sooner? But there was no room for anger. Not yet. There was only urgency. Determined, Moussa started making calls. His first was to Michael, his adoptive father. As always, Michael answered on the first ring. Dad, I found something, actually someone, Moussa said, struggling to steady his voice. He explained everything. The message from Omar, the possibility that Aisha was alive. There was a long pause. Then Michael replied with the gentleness that had defined his role in Musa's life. "Son, if there's a chance, you have to go. We'll support you. Whatever it takes." Laura echoed the sentiment when Musa called her next. "We've always told you, your past is part of who you are. Find her, Musa. Find the answers you deserve." Relief mixed with apprehension. He wasn't alone in this. The next step was figuring out where to begin. Omar's information was limited. Aisha had crossed into Mexico about 6 months ago, but hadn't been able to enter the US. She was last seen in Tijuana, staying at one of the refugee camps near the border. Beyond that, nothing was certain. Musa knew he couldn't navigate this labyrinth alone. He contacted Javier Morales, a renowned immigration lawyer based in San Diego, known for helping asylum seekers and refugees. Javier was direct but kind. After hearing Musa's story, he didn't hesitate. "I've worked with cases like this before. The camps are chaotic, records are incomplete, and people move frequently. But if she's there, we'll find her." Within days, Musa and Javier were on a flight to San Diego. The contrast was jarring. From private jets and 5-star hotels to the harsh reality of border politics, Musa was stepping into a world far removed from anything he'd known. Crossing into Tijuana, the first thing that struck him was the overwhelming noise. Crying children, desperate voices, languages blending into a symphony of struggle. The refugee camp stretched farther than he imagined. Rows of tents, makeshift shelters, and exhausted faces told 1,000 stories of loss and hope. Musa scanned every face, wondering, was she here? Was she safe? Javier led him to the registration center run by a humanitarian organization. Inside, volunteers sorted through folders, papers, and handwritten lists. No digital records, no easy search function. Everything depended on luck, persistence, and human memory. They gave Aisha's name to a volunteer who disappeared into a back room filled with boxes. Minutes felt like hours. When the volunteer returned, her face was neutral. "We had someone by that name registered, about 4 months ago. But she's not here now." Musa's heart sank. "Do you know where she went?" Javier asked. The volunteer sighed. "People get transferred, some leave, some disappear. I can't say for sure, but I can check one more list." Musa held his breath as she flipped through a worn ledger. Then her finger stopped. "There's a note. She was moved to another facility, but it doesn't say which one. A lead, fragile, uncertain, but a lead nonetheless." Musa clenched his fists, determination burning in his chest. "We keep going," he said softly. The morning air was heavy with dust and humidity as Musa stepped back into the camp. His heart pounded with every face he passed. Each pair of eyes seemed to hold a story. A mother searching for her child, a father hoping for news, a child clinging to someone, anyone, for comfort. But none of them were her. At the first tent, an elderly woman looked up as Musa approached. For a second, something about her posture, the curve of her shoulders, the way she clasped her hands, made his breath hitch. But as she turned fully, hope dissolved. Not her. Again and again he scanned the crowds. His chest tightened with every misstep, every mistaken glance. The resemblance of strangers tortured him. Maybe it was the shape of a cheekbone or the arch of an eyebrow. His mind played tricks, desperate to manifest what his eyes couldn't find. Javier walked beside him, constantly checking with volunteers, aid workers, anyone who might know. Most shook their heads sympathetically. A few offered vague memories. "I think I heard that name. Or maybe she left weeks ago." Nothing concrete. As exhaustion crept in, Musa found his mind drifting. Memories surfaced, uninvited but vivid. The scent of jasmine in his mother's hair, her soft humming at night, the rough texture of the scarf she always wore. And then the screams, the chaos of that night when armed men tore through their village. His mother's frantic voice calling his name as they were separated in the chaos. He clenched his fists. That memory had followed him like a shadow his entire life, and now it fueled him. In a shaded corner of the camp, a group of women prepared food over an open fire. Musa approached, hoping, praying. He asked them in broken Bambara, mixed with English and fragments of Spanish. One woman tilted her head. Aisha Diallo, I remember someone by that name, she said softly. Musa's heart leaped, but her next words crushed him. She was here, but something happened. A fight. She was moved, somewhere safer. Somewhere safer. What did that even mean in a place like this? Frustration flared, but before he could spiral into despair, a uniformed figure approached. A border patrol agent. Instinctively, Musa tensed, expecting a confrontation, but instead, the man offered a nod that was surprisingly kind. "You're the soccer player, right?" the agent asked. "Traoré." Caught off guard, Musa nodded. "Yeah, that's me." The agent extended a hand. "Name's Ramirez. Look, I'm not here to cause trouble. I overheard what you were asking, and I think I can help, off the record." Javier stepped forward, cautious. "Why would you?" Ramirez shrugged, glancing around. "Because not everyone in this uniform is heartless, and because sometimes people deserve to be reunited. Simple as that." He lowered his voice. "There's a restricted list, not public. But sometimes when refugees are relocated for security or health reasons, their names don't stay in the main registry. I can check. No promises. But it's something." Musa exchanged a look with Javier, a mix of skepticism and hope. "What choice did they have?" Ramirez nodded. "Meet me back here in 2 hours. I'll see what I can find." As the agent walked away, Musa exhaled, realizing he'd been holding his breath. It wasn't an answer. Not yet. But it was a direction, and sometimes that was enough to keep going. 2 hours felt like an eternity. Musa paced back and forth, checking his phone obsessively, though no messages came. Javier stood nearby, calm but alert, scanning the camp's restless energy. Every passing minute dragged heavier than the last. Then, finally, Ramirez appeared. His face was unreadable. "I found something," he said, voice low. "Follow me." Musa didn't hesitate. They wove through narrow paths between tents, past tired faces and desperate whispers. The air grew heavier with each step. Ramirez led them beyond the main camp area, toward a cluster of temporary shelters on the outskirts. Quieter, more isolated. He stopped in front of a worn blue tarp. "She's inside," Ramirez said simply. Then he stepped back, giving space. Musa's heart slammed against his ribcage. His hands trembled as he reached for the tarp, but froze. 1,000 thoughts collided. What if she didn't recognize him? What if she rejected him? What if she wasn't the mother he remembered? But none of that mattered now. He inhaled sharply and pulled the tarp aside. There she was, thin, her hair streaked with gray. Wrinkles lined her face, but they did nothing to hide the undeniable familiarity, the curve of her jaw, the softness in her eyes. Time had tried to erase her, but it had failed. For a moment, neither spoke. Her eyes locked onto his, wide, confused, scanning him desperately as if her mind was trying to bridge the impossible. Then, barely above a whisper, she spoke one word. "Musa?" His knees almost gave out. "Mama?" He choked, the word tasting foreign and familiar all at once. She rose slowly, hands trembling. As realization dawned, her lips quivered. "Musa, Musa," she repeated, as if saying it would make it real. And then, they collided into an embrace. Her frail arms wrapped around his shoulders, his around her waist, pulling each other in as though to make up for every second stolen by time and circumstance. Tears streamed uncontrollably. Neither could speak through the sobs. They simply held each other, feeling the shape of faces long missed, breathing in the scent of family they feared was lost forever. After what felt like forever, Aisha finally pulled back slightly, cupping his face in both hands. Her voice cracked. I thought you were gone. They told me you died." Musa shook his head, wiping his tears. "I thought the same. I was taken. Adopted. They told me you didn't survive." Her shoulders trembled as she gripped him tighter. No. That night, when they came, I tried to hold on to you, but the gunfire, The smoke. I lost you in the chaos. I searched. For days, weeks. But the village, everything. Musa's voice softened. I was found, taken to an orphanage, then adopted by a family in America. They were good to me, but I always wondered if you... Aisha pressed her forehead to his. I never stopped praying, never stopped hoping. Silence hung between them, not empty, but full. Full of years unsaid, pain unhealed, and a love that time had battered but never destroyed. She pulled him down to sit beside her, gripping his hand as if letting go wasn't an option anymore. Tell me everything, she whispered. And so, he began. Musa listened as Aisha recounted the years that had passed, the unimaginable journey from Mali to Mexico. She spoke of nights spent hiding from militias, of months crossing borders, of the faces she met and lost along the way. Her voice carried the weight of suffering, but underneath it a quiet, unbreakable strength. I thought I would never see you again, she whispered, but something always told me not to give up. Musa squeezed her hand. We're together now, and I promise we won't be apart again. But promises needed more than words. They needed action. The following morning, Musa met with Javier and Ramirez. Both had already begun making calls, filing paperwork, exploring every possible avenue to secure Aisha's legal entry into the United States. It wouldn't be easy. The bureaucracy was dense, the odds uncertain, but Musa was determined. She's my mother, he told Javier. She belongs with me. Ramirez nodded. It's going to take time, but I'll do everything within my power. People with your platform. You have more influence than you realize, use it. And that's exactly what Musa did. Social media, press interviews, public statements. He told the world his story. Not for sympathy, but for visibility, for change. Support flooded in. Fans, celebrities, journalists, and activists rallied behind him. What started as a personal quest became something bigger. A spotlight on the struggles of thousands of families torn apart by borders and politics. Days turned into weeks. Each day, Musa and Aisha grew closer, filling the gaps left by years of separation. They shared memories, stories, laughter, and tears. Aisha told him about his siblings, some lost, some still missing. Musa told her about California, his career, the Bennetts, the life he built. One afternoon, they sat side by side, video calling Michael and Laura. These are the people who raised me, Musa explained, his voice trembling slightly. Michael appeared on the screen, smiling warmly. Aisha, we've wanted to meet you for a long time. Aisha's eyes filled with tears. Thank you. Thank you for loving my son when I couldn't. Laura leaned into the frame. He's our son, and now he's still yours too. For a long moment, there was only gratitude, silent, profound, and shared. Javier arrived days later with news that brought both relief and disbelief. We have preliminary approval for her asylum case. It's not final yet, but it's moving in the right direction. Musa hugged him without hesitation. Thank you for not giving up. As the paperwork progressed, plans were made. Aisha would move in with Musa in California as soon as legally possible. No more tents, no more uncertainty. Standing at the edge of the camp one last time, Musa looked out at the sprawling maze of shelters. His heart ached for the ones left behind, for the millions whose stories wouldn't be told on television, whose endings wouldn't come this neatly. We're lucky, he whispered. But this isn't just about us. Aisha nodded, gripping his hand. Then let's help others, together. Their story wasn't just about reunion. It was about resilience. About family, the kind forged in blood and the kind chosen through love. Family is not just about blood. It's about never giving up on those you love, Musa reflected. And if this story touched you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel. And click on the video now appearing on your screen to watch another inspiring journey. One that proves once again that hope never truly dies.